Sorry. Hello. Yeah. Thank you, Afsan, for this introduction. It is a great honor, and I'm very, very truly honored to be over here. So, first, I would like to invite the stalwarts of the field, especially in the renewable energy, who have been working on quite a lot. Shashikant Mishra from Ampin Energy Transition Solutions. Please welcome him with a big round of applause. Now, I would like to, I request Mr. Kishore Nair from Avada onto the dais. And now I request Mr. Chintan Shah from RE Renew Energy Group onto the dais. I request you guys to please have the seat on the dais. So, thank you all. Thank you, sir, for joining this panel discussion on the advancing renewable energy pathway to sustainable and resilient world. I am very thrilled to see so many individuals who have been over here for supporting this sustainable growth, as well as on the renewable energy pathways, how we can achieve in a greater way, especially on looking into from the economic environment, as well as on the sustainable growth, whole as a picture. We are really thrilled to have these panelists over here who has been working a lot in this renewable energy field, especially from the past decade. One on the renewable energy, which you can see that they have been started in 2030, and they have been working enormously on the solar, especially on the wind installation, especially on the power generation also. And we have Ampin Energy Transition, who has been working very much on the utility scale things from the CII point of view, as well as on the, they are also looking into the generation PPA agreements and all. And also we have Avada Solutions, or the Avada Energy Group, who has been inception in 2017, and they are also been working lotly with respect to solar manufacturing, especially also on the generation portfolios. So it's an honor for me to have these three people over here. And I take this opportunity to welcome all the passionate individuals who has been here to listen to this session. So, as the vision of the Invest Karnataka 2025, which is about reimagining growth. So, in this one, what is the thing which I have been looking into? One is with respect to the technology, other one with respect to the green energy solutions, how on the new technologies which can be driven. Along with that one, we are also looking into the inclusiveness of like how the collaboration work can make a better part, and also on the resilient power. So, keeping this vision of Invest Karnataka 2025, we are here bringing the today's discussion on the advancing renewable energy pathways to a sustainable solutions. So, what is the more thing which we are looking into this session? First, we will be looking into the multi-aspect landscape of renewable energy, on what all their challenges which has been happening currently with the renewable energy integration into the grid, what are their challenges. Now once the challenges are there, we also know there are opportunities to the people to the invest as well as from the things. Now we will be listening for these people on the part. And the discussion forum which we will be following in this structure today in this discussion, or the panel discussion, is like, first there will be divided into three sections. On the first section, the more discussion will be respect to the challenges associated with renewable energy integration, basically with respect to the grid stability, what are the challenges associated with them. Now, once the challenges has been addressed, the next question which we'll be looking into is like, what will be the emerging technologies, and what are the new technologies which will coming up, and how these things, new technologies will be given an opportunity, and what are the steps needed to take these emerging technology into the mainstream. And on the final thing, what is the currently the hindrance or the backlashes which has been happening currently with respect to the renewable energy growth, and how we can take it forward. So these are the three sections which will be taken. Then I will be opening the questions to the audiences for the thing. And finally, we will be concluding remarks from each of the panelists will be given, and I will be summarizing the session. So to set the context, currently why we are having this session, and what is the importance of this session. So as we all know, currently India, we are in a phase of transition from the developing stage to the developed status, which we can be achieving in another couple of decades. So when we are achieving from developing to developed state, that means that there will be a lot of infrastructure development which has been required. For infrastructure development, what is the key thing? The power, the uninterrupted power. So the power sector, which is very vital in the development of the country, plays a very critical role over here. But we are seeing the growth over here. Currently, India, we are also looking into sustainable growth, not only with respect to the undisrupted growth, sustainable growth. So that we have pledged right now to reduce our emission intensity by 33 to 35% by 2030 from the 2005 level. And along with that one, we have also envisaged to have the 500 gigawatt of renewable energy installation by 2030 and 50% of our installed capacity in the renewable energy by 2030. So these two are the missions. If we look into India's current state, what is the thing? We are having currently in India, the renewable energy share is 45%. And that is also very critical to see over here. But now installed capacity is 45%. When we see from the generation picture, it shows a different story. In the India 462 gigawatt of installation of an annual generation of 1,692 terawatt hour, the generation from the renewable energy, including the large hydro, was just 23% in that one. So why that has been the problem? Because renewable energy, which is always having these challenges with respect to the generation, basically they are intermittent in nature. They are the people who don't, if we say like they are the people, they don't follow the rules of like when we wanted. They are the one who comes whenever they want. So that is the challenge which we are having with the renewable energy sources. So there is lot of intermittencies which has been happening with renewable energy, which are basically affecting the grid stability and the grid structure. So now taking these challenges into forward, this session, we will be likely going into the discussion of like how the renewable energies will, how to address these challenges and what are the critical things. So to taking this cue, my first question is directed to Mr. Kishore Nair, the CEO and Director of Avada Energy, a company that has envisioned achieving of operational capacity of 11 gigawatt of solar by 2026, and also they have also vision of like 30 gigawatt by 2030. Sir, this question is just on the, with respect to, as we were speaking about the grid stability because of the renewable energy sources which is having an effect. Now, could you please share your views on the challenges associated with integrating renewable energy sources into the grid? And additionally, it will be very helpful for all of us to also know that how can these challenges be effectively addressed moving forward. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Varun. You have nicely articulated the renewable sector in few words. Starting from where you have concluded that India has a serious issue on achieving the grid stability, I think that is a problem. 10 years back or maybe 15 years back when we started with the solar mission, that time nobody thought that India will be achieving the growth of renewable energy or particularly on solar energy so fast. So initially we set a target of 20 gigawatt to be achieved by 2022, and then we scaled it up to 100,000 megawatt. And today we have set a target of 500 gigawatt to be achieved by 2030. And this naturally has put some problems in managing the grid. That is what I think Varun has mentioned the issue. Yes, that is a challenge, and the way we have fast-tracked the progress of installation of solar energy, that is going to put some issues into the grid to balance the grid, because the solar or wind energy or any forms of renewable energies of infirm nature, you cannot control the generation, because as the sun comes out, the solar energy production starts, as the wind starts blowing, the wind energy starts. You cannot really control it, unlike a thermal project where you can always control the input and the output energy also. And since this is a must-run energy, we don't want to waste that energy. We want to run this renewable energy project. So that is causing some problems today, because if you are not controlling the energy that is getting pumped into the grid, it will have a grid stability issues. So that is where now maybe 3 years back or 4 years back, the system regulators have started thinking of how to regulate the renewable energy, and they have started bringing in regulations of scheduling and forecasting. That means what energy you are going to pump into the system, that is to be scheduled for every 15 minutes in a day. That means 24 into 4, that is 96 blocks. For every 15 minutes, you need to do a scheduling and forecast the energy. So this is one of the biggest challenges that the sector is facing today, because we cannot control the weather. And the scheduling will be done based on the basis of the weather only. That is where now one of the major challenges what we are facing is that how to do the accurate weather forecasting. We had been having discussions with the Government of India, with the Meteorological Department, to give us some sort of accurate weather forecasting. On that basis, we can do the forecasting and scheduling. So this is one major aspect which we are working. And that is still not in our control, and it is not even in government's control, and the penalty is also huge. For every variation which is going more than 5%, there is a penalty, and if it goes more than 10% what you have forecasted, you don't get anything paid for whatever energy you are pumping, and there are penalties also. This is one of the major challenges which the government is addressing, and the solution for that is that government is now coming up with more bits with storage facilities, because surplus energy what you are generating needs to be stored, and the policies are being brought in to integrate the energy generation along with storage facilities. The bits earlier, it was pure wind and solar bits, which has now been initially integrated with the wind and solar hybrid bits, and then it was integrated with the hybrid along with the storage bits. That means either solar plus storage or solar plus wind plus storage, that makes sure that you will supply renewable energy on demand. Whenever you want the renewable energy to be supplied, this has to be stored and to be supplied whenever it is required, particularly in the peak season, peak time of evening peak or morning peak time. So these kind of bits are coming in. So that is one way government is addressing this issue of making renewable energy available on 24/7. That is one aspect of it. The second is on the scheduling and forecasting. We have also, we are discussing with government to come up with weather forecasting by a government agency who can do an accurate forecast. And that forecast will be passed on to the renewable energy generators who can do the forecasting on a more accurate basis. So these are some of the actions that is being taken by government as well as the renewable energy developers.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kishore Nair, for this valuable thought of like, I can understand that when the electricity system is transitioning from currently, which is having a static power, that is a dispatchable, which was there a few years ago with a coal power plant, now it has become variable power. So matching the variable supply with variable demand, which you have mentioned, that was a challenge. And along with that one, how storage also plays a critical role, and forecasting, which is very much required when we are looking into the forecasting, especially on the generation from solar and wind as a generating company. Now, taking this session forward on this note, I request right now Mr. Shashi from the Ampin Energy Solutions. Mr. Shashi right now, Shashikant Mishra is an associate director. And this company, Ampin Solution, they have a very critical thing. And they are working on the utility solution for renewable energy sources, which are very vital in the discussion of like the grid stability, which we are speaking about. And Ampin Energy Solution is also energy transition, pardon my language. So have a target of 10 gigawatt by 2030. So Mr. Mishra, sir, could you please shed some of the light on the current status and challenges of the interstate transmission infrastructure as we speak about the currently with respect to the grid challenges, and what policies the government should prioritize to further develop this grid infrastructure? Can you please show some light?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's I'm feeling really, glad to be here and to be a part of this renewable energy session. We heard a lot yesterday in the Invest in Karnataka, from Deputy CM, from CM, from the Defense Minister, everyone. Will come, quickly on the questions what has been asked by my colleague, Mr. Jyoti Prakash. So I will not take so much of time from you, but I will go a little bit back what we have seen, not only in Karnataka, but across India. The state which have given the open access permissions to use the power for all the CNI customers, including the DISCOM, contribution as well as, the part of the capacity of their electricity, they can go for the open access, power purchase agreement and all. So started from trading, then third-party bilateral trading, and then coming on into the group captive and captive transactions. So the era what we have seen, just before 2018-19, still starting from 2008 to 2019, it was a very good era. The policy was very robust, stable, sustainable, giving annual year banking, to all the captive customers or to any, open access customers to generate the power in any month and consume the power in the entire financial year, right? And the open access charges, losses, slowly and slowly it was on a increasing number. But from the year 2020, we can take 2020 or 2022 onward, just before pandemic, we have seen a lot of changes across the states, especially in the open access market. Intra-state systems, like states like Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, they started very beautifully. They have implemented the policy in a very, expedite manner. A lot of projects has come into these states, especially in the solar, as rightly, mentioned by Kishore sir. But slowly and slowly, again, there is a, challenges started coming. And the challenges we have seen, like, it's not only on the increase in the open access charges, but also the annual year banking, which was a strong pillar for any renewable energy, especially for the solar and wind, because this all power what we generate, it depends on the nature. And it generate on, on the specific, seasons, not like each and every month we will have a, same number of generations what we used to see in the peak and the non-peak season. So that annual year banking, first thing which is removed, from one state to the other state, and then now we are standing in Karnataka. So Karnataka was actually up to December 2022. It was a dominating state in the renewable energy sector. A very robust policy, very stable policy with annual year banking, and only 5 to 2% of filling and banking charges, which is an in-kind loss and no open access charges. But from January 2023 onwards, as per the Green Energy Open Access Regulations, which got implemented by KERC, Karnataka Electricity Regulatory Commissions, they have removed the annual year banking policy and implemented the monthly banking policy, which we, in a very simple language, we understand that whatever you generate, you have to consume within the same month, in the 30 days window. So first change which was implemented by Karnataka Electricity Regulatory Commission, and not only that, banking charges got implemented. I will talk on the numbers, 8%, whatever we are offsetting in the night hours, the surplus power which we generate in the day hours, and extra 2% in the peak hour. Not only this, again, slowly and slowly, seeing the other states, especially like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, we have just now seen the draft order has come from KERC. The public hearing is in this month only, and they are coming up with a proposal to, put a restriction for offset and the settlement of power in the peak hours. So whatever you generate in the off-peak hours, that will not allow to settle in the off-peak hours. So that's again a big challenge, which we as an IPP, and all the CNI segments also we are going to discuss in the public hearing. And we are in a, in a stage that we are going to request to Karnataka Electricity Regulatory Commissions to, if they want to do, as what Kishore sir was mentioning, that grid stability has to come. We understand it's a renewable energy, we have to go for a stability to balance the growth, and means to have a balanced grid infra within India. But what we need to, get a good number of growth in the renewable energy sector, what we have a target to reach this 50%, right? What the net consumption of our total electricity of across India from the renewables. For this, we need a transition time. It can't be like a one-time, some policy will become and you will change the policy year on year, and then you will ask for a robust policy and you want to invest in Karnataka. So this will, absolutely going to give a very, very, wrong impression to our investors, to our CNI customers. I'm talking on behalf of CNI customers today in this event, because for the utility, it's somehow we can manage. It's a long-term contract, right? Infra and all, it's all means given by the utility, government sectors and all. But for the CNI customers, we have to think today. We have to discuss today itself. And it's not only for AMPIN, but it's all we together, Avada, AMPIN, Renew Power, we all in the IPV sector, along with the CNI customer, along with the audience, all of you sitting over here, we have to take this challenge. We have to discuss with the regulatory commissions that whatever challenges or whatever implementations they want to do, they can do, but there has to be a transition period. Otherwise, growth we can see in some domain, but not in the renewable energy sector, what we have seen in the past 10 to 15 years. So that's the thing about the intrastate enormous challenges, what we are seeing. Coming on the other transaction which we call as ISTS, CTU connected projects. Yes, there were a lot of discussion on the draft before this 2022 April. Almost 5-6 years was discussion going on to implement the GNA regulations, which in a very simple language we say that you install the plant, solar, wind at any location in India, connect to the CTU line and transmit the power across India to any, to the utility or to the CNI segments to anywhere, depending on the feasibility on the cost of the power what you are generating. But again, the challenge is what? Order implemented, but the infra what we need, what support we need from the government, like the transmission line, the CTU service stations, is still not in that stage what we actually need if we want to commission the project. Minimum 12 months is the timeline what we, when we go for application for the connectivity, 6 to 12 months is the timeline. Still, we have to wait to get the connectivity. Even if we get the connectivity, because wind and solar we cannot, install, we need a proper place to install these projects. So even if we go, if we, have the site, what issues we are facing, the biggest issue is the CTU service station is not in place over there, right? So that's a very time-taking minimum, and all this process for the CTU service stations to come, it takes 18 to 24 months time, because tender opening, discussions, then bidding and all. By that time, the policies, what we have in GNA, the waiver on the transmission charges will be going to expire. So again, a request, which we are in discussion with the Ministry of Power, with the CTU people, CRC, that whatever transmission charges waiver they have given, the waiver on the transmission charges, it should not be linked to a certain timeline. You can remove, you can do it better, but don't link it until unless your infra is ready. So that's what, from my side, regarding the challenges, what we are facing, in the intrastate, as well as the ISTS projects. Thank you all.
Hello. Okay, you want me to use the mic? Sure.
I think that's better.
Hello. Is it fine right now? Okay, great. Thank you, Shashi, for this enlightening views. Especially, this was really eye-opening with respect to the things which you have right now spoke about, and also the challenges with respect to the transmission charges where we are, which should not be linked with the timelines of the CEA and CERC. And you also spoke about the most important policies which we are looking into, the Invest Karnataka 2025, that is like the inclusiveness where we have to collaborate and all the things, and also the robust policy which has been going on the resilient. So now there is two things which has been spoken, one by the Kishore Nair sir and also from the Shashikant Mishra. Now they have also spoken that how the transmission need to be given and what are the things. Now I go into Mr. Chintan Shah, the CEO, one second, Yeah, from Renew Group. Uh, he is basically the Renew Group, as they don't require any introduction, as we all know. This is one of the pioneers in the companies and who has been working on from past decade, quite a long time. And the Renew Power basically is also featured currently in the fortune change in the world list of 2024, and this is the only company which has been nominated from India. This is also requires a huge appreciation for them. They have been also working with the transmission manufacturing of the solar plant, solar PV cells, PV manufacturing. So they have been in quite a lot of fields with respect to not only from the utility point of view, also from the generation point. Now, sir, the question directly goes to you right now. As Kishore sir also spoke about like the investment on the solar plus storage, and Shashi also spoke about like the how much a transmission and the infrastructure requirement is required. Now, the simple is like what should be the market mechanism which you are looking into the investment, because a lot of economics is also coming into the scale of renewable energy, and how we need to look into this market structure. If you can shed some thoughts on it, it will be very helpful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Arun. Am I audible? Am I audible? Let me sound a little bit positive about this sector. One thing is we have a 500 gigawatt target. Second thing is there is absolute no dispute that the future is renewables.
I think he's audible. Yeah. So.
The future is renewables. There's no doubt about it. It's a given fact. So every country across the world has to get into renewables. We are one of the countries which are quite aggressive about renewables, primarily because we have a fair amount of renewable resource and we lack in fossil fuel resource. So it is a natural advancement for a country like India. Having said so, the entire sector has been evolving from 1991 when the economy opened up. You did not have private sector participation before that. And we, as industry from the private sector, got participated from 95, 94 onwards, are constantly evolving. And even the government is evolving. And this is a change which is happening, and this is a positive change, I would say. In case of renewables, I would say that we started off with something which is known as a tariff that was fixed by the government, state governments. Then we moved to the regulatory commission regime, where a feed-in tariff or a preferential tariff was essentially approved by the regulatory commissions. And an entire market was going on that particular path. Then we got into bidding. And now the entire setup is on bidding. You bid for a project and you execute these projects. Now what is happening is that you are constantly evolving in the market models. That's very important. Now what can be the way forward? So one thing which the industry also needs to know is very clearly is 15 years down the line, you will have distribution reforms. Bound to happen. And there will the distribution company will get unbundled further into wires business and trading business. Now, if this is a given fact, when it may happen, maybe 2030, 2035, but definitely it will bound to happen. Now, a distribution company will also think, why should I get into a 25-year PPA? Because when the unbundling would happen at distribution level, who is going to take over the liability of my 25-year liability? Nobody will take it. So now there's a resistance also coming up from the distribution company also, that why should I get into long-term PPAs? Now that is what a significant change is now getting reflected in the PPAs not getting signed. This is a problem. Now obviously every problem has a solution. What the solution is, you need to evolve the market models. At Renew, we have been evolving market models. We were one of the people who pushed for a concept like FDRE or RTC type of project, round-the-clock project, because this is what the distribution company needs. Your consumer's distribution company on a large-scale basis, if you're barring the B2B segment right now, because the major consumers are distribution. The distribution company would say, man, you produce solar in the afternoon, I don't need electricity in the afternoon, I need in the evening. So what the thing is, the bid structure has to change to follow the load curve of the distribution company. That's how we come with solar with best tender, wind with solar tender, wind solar with best tender. But that is what the need of the distribution company is. Unfortunately, electricity is a commodity that cannot be stored. It has to be consumed when you generate it. So the question is, you have a mismatch of maximum generation in the future coming from the solar, massive electricity supply in the afternoon, and you cannot increase the load in the afternoon to beyond a point. So you need to essentially back down the load or store it, either a pump storage or a battery. That is what the current market model is. But with this model, can we achieve 500 gigawatt? Definitely not. What do you require? You require to further deregulate the market. What is that? Exchange. You have 3 electricity exchanges in India where you can essentially sell electricity on a day-ahead basis or a term-ahead basis. But the problem with the exchange today is that the exchange depth is very minimal, hardly 10 gigawatt. So it's a marginal cost of power which is getting reflected, not the actual market price. So we need to also evolve parallelly and deepen the exchange, where essentially I can have long-term contracts through the exchange itself, which may lead to creation of derivatives, swaps, forwards, and things like that, which is there in US, which is there in Australia, it is there in Europe also. I think it's a time that we need to also evolve, because I personally feel that a 25-year PPA may not be relevant maybe a couple of years down the line. So you need to have an alternate segment available with you, which is either a bilateral segment or an exchange-based segment. So this is, we can talk about contract for difference projects, PPAs, or a virtual PPA, which is quite common in the Western world. We have very few examples in India for that. So that is what the industry now need to evolve. I think that makes a great sense. And as far as the overall perspective is, I think you're going in a right direction. There will be always, because the pace at which we are growing right now, there will be always some mismatches. But these mismatches are more in terms of time lags than in real sense. Because there is a positivity across all stakeholders. Nobody is denying that transmission is not, it is needed transmission. And a lot of planning on transmission is happening. A lot of manufacturing is happening. Everybody is concerned about renewables. But there's always this, all 5 stakeholders have to come together in unison. Normally, it takes time to doing that. But what is more important, which is in hand of the industry and other stakeholders, to evolve an alternate market model, offtake instrument, which is the key part to it, which will lead us to the path of 500 gigawatt in the future. That's all I had, Varun.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shah, on these thoughts on the market mechanism. Actually, this has really been the eye-opener for us to see that the challenges, how the market mechanism need to work and to go for the more and more investment, especially with the hindering challenges which we are focusing. Shah, thank you very much for shedding the light on this, that how the real challenges and how we should move forward. Now, with this positive note of like the challenges on the renewable, especially with the market as well as on the grid has been considered. Now, let us look into the new opportunities which has come out of this challenge. That is any emerging technologies which will be able to focus or overcome the renewable energy challenge, especially with this time of quantity mismatch from the renewable energies sources. That is one of the options which Kishore Nair sir told is also on the storage part. Now, taking this cue right now, my question is to Mr. Kishore Nair sir. As the share of renewable energies is currently which has been growing, we require the storage very much, especially with the battery or any pumped hydro storage. So, can you please discuss or give us a thought on like the challenges currently the Avada or any of the companies, private companies which has been facing for integrating battery technologies and into the mainstream of technologies? And furthermore, what storage technology India should focus on moving forward currently? Thank you.
So far the discussions had been focusing on the challenges in making the renewable energy on around the clock basis. So for meeting that, we all discussed and agreed that storage is the only solution in which we need to make the renewable energy available on 24/7 basis. When we started renewable energy 10 years back, the tariff was in the range, or 15 years back, the tariff was in the range of 17 rupees. It came down to 12 rupees to finally 4 rupees, and it even breached the 2 rupees note also. But slowly it has now stabilized between 2 rupee 50 paisa to 3 rupees. But all along, we are seeing nowadays that the solar energy which is available at a cheap rate at maybe less than or around less than 3 rupees, and the evening peak power is going at a ceiling rate of maybe 10 rupees. Of course, when we were having a discussion, Chindan was talking that somebody has signed even an evening peak power at 18 rupees also. So how do you make this power when the power is costly at 12 rupees or 18 rupees, and when the daytime power is available at 2 rupees? Why don't you store this energy and then sell it in the evening peak? So that is something which we all had been discussing, the policy makers had been discussing, how to make the renewable energy available when the renewable energy is not getting produced. When I did my engineering more than 40 years back, we were taught that electrical energy cannot be stored. So we have changed that policy, and now we are saying that how the energy can be stored. So that is why the policy decisions or policy makers are making policies to make sure that renewable energy is available when it is not getting produced. That means we need to find a way to store this energy and give the energy back into the grid when it is not getting produced. So that is where it is becoming very predominant and very necessity to find out the storage technology. When we were prominently producing or talking about the solar energy policy, we also talked about can the storage be integrated with the generation? But that time the storage cost was pretty high, started with $1,000. Then we predicted that the cost will come down to $500. But it got more or less stagnant at $500, and it was not coming down. That is where the storage was not integrated with the renewable energy production in the last maybe till about 3-4 years back. But in the last 3 years, we have seen the battery prices are coming down. It is making it more viable for the renewable energy to be integrated with the solar energy, so that the solar or renewable energy can be made available during the peak hours. So that is the problem, and the solution was there. Even when in about, I think, 2014, when I was having a meeting with the union minister along with the renewable energy CEO, so I made a proposition to him that why are we not looking at coming up with some policy initiatives, including some subsidy to be given to the battery manufacturing, because by that time the solar manufacturing was totally taken over by China, and we had no space in the solar module manufacturing, and government was giving lot of incentives for solar module manufacturing. So I told him that now that the solar module manufacturing is already taken over by China, and China has not really got into the battery manufacturing, we should have some incentives to at least promote battery manufacturing. But unfortunately, he said, for the large grid scale projects, we are not expecting the grid scale battery manufacturing. And the policy was towards EV, supporting the EV and the electric vehicle manufacturing, and the battery for supporting that initiative only. That's how it did not even really pick up even at that time. But in the last 3 years or so, we are finding that solar has become the storage has become the integrated part of renewable energy, and it cannot sustain without storage. The thermal energy is getting sold at maybe 7 rupees, 8 rupees with a variable cost, which will take maybe after 5 years, the cost may get doubled, or after 20 years, it may be 3 or 4 times. Whereas the solar energy tariff, which is getting fixed today, is fixed for 25 years, including storage. So like Chindan explained about different type of bidding that is happening, that is following the load curve, even with all these kind of variation, making the stored energy available at a tariff varying between 3 rupee 50 paisa to less than 5 rupees. That is the current energy cost that is coming out in the bids, with renewable energy available on 24/7 basis. So that is something which make it necessary that the storage is essential, and how to bring down the cost of storage. So that is where we are looking at various options, including the battery technology as well as the other source of storage through the pumped storage hydro projects. The pumped storage hydro projects is basically using the surplus solar energy which is available in the daytime, maybe at a tariff of between 2 rupees to 3 rupees. That energy is used for pumping the water up the reservoir. We will have basically two reservoirs. The upper reservoir will be storing the water which will be used for driving the hydro turbines, and the water outlet in normal hydro projects, the water will be flowing through the rivers to the sea. It is getting wasted, whereas in a pump storage projects, you will have two storage reservoirs, the water will be recycled, and for pumping the water, the solar energy which is available at cheaper rate will be used. Like if the solar energy is available at 2 rupee 50 paisa, that will be used to pump the water up, and that will be sold during the evening peak, where you can get the tariff of 8 rupees to 12 rupees tariff. So that is where the pump storage is becoming very relevant for storage. But the disadvantage for the pump storage project is that the gestation time is long, and it will have lot of environmental impacts, that you need reservoirs, lot of approvals, the land requirement will be high. But lot of initiatives are being taken to promote the pump storage project. So that is one technology that is being currently talked about for storage of energy. The second is on the battery technology. Whenever we talk about battery technology, we all talk about lithium ion that is widely used in our EVs, electric vehicles, or even the mobiles are carrying the lithium ion battery. The lithium ion battery the cost has come down, but we are looking at different technologies. So one technology which is time tested is lithium ion batteries, which has got the advantage of compact sizing, and it has got tenure of, it can last up to maybe up to 8 years it can last, and it is compact in size, but the cost is still very high. Cost is still high, I will not say very high. The costs are still coming down. The unfortunate part is that lithium as a metal is widely found in China, or China is holding, and whenever you are talking about a lithium ion battery, you always need to depend upon China. And China, globally, China has got trade barriers with lot of countries, because when China is having the monopoly of a particular raw material, it can always control the price of that material, and that is why we are always looking at alternate sources of storage material. And another alternative that is found is the sodium batteries. Sodium is available compared to lithium. Globally it is available because sodium is available in the seawater. Sodium chloride is the salt that is available widely, and sodium as a metal is also available widely. So a lot of research is going on to make the sodium batteries as more economically available for making the storage requirements. The disadvantage for sodium ion battery is the density is slightly higher than the lithium ion battery. It requires larger space, but it is cheaper, and the thermal efficiency is better for sodium ion batteries. But it may not be useful for EV applications or even mobile applications. It may not be applicable because of the density is higher. But it can certainly be used for large-scale grid-connected renewable projects, where space is not an issue. You can use it in grid-connected projects. So we are looking at sodium-ion batteries as a alternate solution for lithium-ion batteries. Maybe a few years from now, sodium batteries may become even cheaper, and the efficiency will also likely to increase. So that is another source compared to lithium-ion batteries. But another technology that is being worked on is the solid-state batteries, which will have, instead of liquid electrolyte, we will have the solid electrolyte that will be highly efficient compared to lithium-ion battery or sodium-ion batteries, and the cycle time will be higher. You can even, it can last for 10,000 cycles charging compared to 8,000 for a lithium-ion battery, or even 4,000, 5,000 for a sodium-ion batteries. So the longevity will be higher. You can have a battery which will last for maybe 10 years to 12 years, as the minimum battery life is higher on solid-state batteries, but the cost is still very high. The efficiency is high in solid-state batteries, but the technology is still being worked out. Companies like Toyota or Samsung, they are working on solid-state battery technologies. So maybe Going forward in 5 years' time, we will see that solid-state battery technology will be handy and useful, and it will be cheap and competitive for usage in the grid-connected solar, grid-connected renewable energy projects. So these are the technologies that is currently being talked about.
That's wonderful thoughts, Kishore sir. Thank you for summarizing, giving us a view of like what is the differences of the battery storage technologies and how much is the tariff differences with respect to the battery storage as well as on the pumped hydro storage. So taking this question forward, I would like to invite now Mr. Shashikant Mishra to see, we are speaking about batteries right now, as sir also spoke about the solid batteries, lithium-ion batteries and the sodium batteries and all other things. But the most critical part, which comes up, is currently with respect to the policies and the information required for domestic battery supply chain. What is your thoughts on that one, from the raw material to the manufacturing? What is the challenges and how we can address these challenges currently? And is there any requirement from the government is required or the policy stages are required, and what is the supply chain challenges in these things? Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, so Jyoti, I think enough of the details in the battery segment has been given by, by respected Sir Kishore Nair sir. So I will not take so much of time to answer your queries in this, because many of the, detailed analysis he has presented today in front of every one of us here. So yeah, so battery domestic and all, see, as what he rightly mentioned, that the way the policy is getting implemented in India with respect to the renewable energy across India. So one, we have to come soon with the battery storage to get 24 hours power, whether it is CNI or for the SECI tender or any utility type of projects. Because everyone, now the demand is what? We want a 24 hours power. So what options we have? For getting the 24 hours power, we have to go for either wind and solar at a co-located project where we are facing a lot of challenges with the site. The readiness of the site is not there. Even we have the side of wind, the solar is over not there. Even we have the solar side, the wind is not available in that particular area. So ultimate solutions to any CNI segments or for putting a large megawatt of scale of projects for utility, we have to, very, very soon we have to use and start using the battery storage to generate, to oversize the project and generate the power, and the surplus power, what we are not able to utilize, that we can use it with the battery storage system. As of now, today, the challenge is what? The battery, the cost, what we are getting, from the battery manufacturing suppliers, right? And the battery manufacturing, the facility, what is going, already there in Karnataka, or you can say Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh. Many of the states, we have a good manufacturing, the battery manufacturing, the factories are there. The problem is what? The cost, what they are offering and what we are, offering to our end customers. It's not making any commercial viable sense in terms of the electricity cost. Somehow we, we are trying to figure it out. In some states where the cost of electricity for the CNI customer is almost more than, in the range of 10 to 12 rupees. Like in Maharashtra, what we are saying is it's touching around 9 rupees, 50 paisa to 10 rupees, the cost of electricity for the CNI customers. There we are, we are, offering right now to the CNI customers that with the battery, what solar projects we are, massaging for them. So we'll have something surplus in the day hours, and the 2 hours in the morning peak hours and the 2 hours in the evening peak hours, we will be able to store that power and supply in these 4 hours of the peak hours. But utilization of battery, because of this cost, it is hardly in the range of 1 to 2%, not even 10% range also. So, as rightly said by Kishore sir, yes, we have to bring some policy from the state government, with respect to subsidy, incentives, not only to the, the raw materials, but on something, things, the capacity, what they are, putting in a particular state. On the basis of that, I am not saying that you give the incentives for a long term, but at least for the transition period for 5 to 10 years from the commissioning date of the battery manufacturing unit, to take some space, to have some breath, so that the cost of the battery should come down, and that will inspire all the battery manufacturer to go for a gigawatt scale type of project. So that's all from my side. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shashikant Mishra, for this lovely discussions of like the battery manufacturing and also the cost to the CI and I consumer, and also speaking about the peak and the non-peak hours of like 2 hours in the peak and on the morning peak and 2 hours of the evening peak, how to address these things. So taking this forward, now I request Mr. Chintan Shah, the group president, as currently we are Renew Energy, which has been looking into the more and more of the innovation part also, and new technologies which has been coming. So can you please share on the emerging technologies with respect to the, what is your thoughts on the green hydrogen, which is a new battery storage system? And do you think so that green hydrogens can be taken forward as a basically a large scale battery storage compared to replacing the lithium ion batteries and all the things? What is your thoughts on this, on the new technologies, emerging technologies?
Is it okay if I add something to what they said about?
Absolutely, sir.
So I think storage is a much larger thing. I think we're taking it very small. First of all, let us understand what the problem statements are. The problem statement is that India is a vast country where grids are getting created to connect each and every state. You have a central grid, and today around of the total capacity of 360 gigawatt, 180 gigawatt of electricity can be moved free across India. That's the amount of transmission system that we have created till now. Is it okay now? I think there's a problem with the speaker, for the speakers.
We are unable to hear.
The audience can listen, I think, but the problem is here.
Yeah.
Problem is this side. Okay. So, is it okay now?
Yeah, much better. Little bit better. Much better.
Chalo, fine.
It's okay, sir. Please go ahead.
So let us first of all understand the problem statement. The problem statement is India has a total installed capacity of 360 to 380 gigawatt. The amount of transmission infrastructure that we have got today can easily transfer 180 gigawatt of electricity anywhere in India. The rest can't be because we don't have adequate transmission connections, which would come up as we go in the future. So first of all, once you have sort of no barriers on transfer of electrons to any part of India, half of your storage problems get solved. Because India is a vast country, you have from east to west, the load changes in time. So for example, if the eastern India would have a peak load at say 6 o'clock in the evening, it will be 7 o'clock in the evening in the Maharashtra area. So you essentially transfer electrons from one place to another place. You don't require storage, amount of storage. That is something that has to happen and is likely to happen. Second thing is, the negative part is, we are very, very aggressive about solar, which is likely to happen, around 300 gigawatt of solar. Unfortunately, all solar installation in India is happening in one vertical band, 70-degree north to 80-degree north longitude. So that means you're pushing huge amount of electrons in the afternoon in one particular belt. That is where the problem statement is. And for solar, it enters grid at every level: rooftop, Kusum, STU, CTU. All come together, unfortunately, at the same time. So how can you create a demand of 300 gigawatt base demand in the afternoon? Can't. As simple as that. That's where the storage comes into picture. Apart from the storage, another challenge is when you have huge supply and less of demand, what happens? Voltage shoots up.
Okay.
If the voltage shoots up, there's a problem in the grid. So how do you stabilize the voltage? Either by generating less, or you create a reactive loads. How do you create a reactive load? Kitna pump chala loge aap? That's where PSP comes into picture. PSP is an inductive load, a reactive load. So it also stores electricity and also stabilizes voltage. So PSP is important, pumped hydro. It is a necessity of the grid to stabilize the grid. Storage is a byproduct there. While in case of solar, it is also a crime when a solar can't generate more than a plant load factor of 24% or 25% to block the entire grid for 100% of the time. It doesn't make sense. So what you do is you have to also add storage at the solar end so that you can optimize the transmission facility. You don't require so much of transmission. A 300 gigawatt solar effectively is maybe 100 gigawatt or 75 gigawatt. That's the amount of transmission required with storage at the solar end. So require effective use of storage at different ends. For example, if you have these rooftop solar projects across, like for example, Karnataka is way ahead in rooftop solar, and so is Gujarat. We all know this. The same house is going to consume electricity in the night, in the evening. I would rather put up storage facility at distribution level itself. When it's generating electricity in the afternoon, it gets stored at that level itself and goes back in the evening. So you have effective use of storage at different levels, and different storage levels requires different storage technology. Now, pumped hydro is needed for the grid stability. It can't replace with battery. Battery is needed at the solar end to optimize transmission. And you also require battery at the distribution end to ensure that you don't require additional distribution infrastructure to be created. It's not needed. So this is, and apart from this, you have the smart grid coming in, which essentially directs electricity to move in a direction where it can be regulated through a smart grid infrastructure. So everything has to be seen in a wholesome criteria. There is no one angle to it. It's a multi-dimensional thing, and this is important as far as planning is concerned. Coming to green hydrogen, I would like to tell one more thing. When we talk about any idea in this audience, even to my panelists, what is the percentage of electricity in the entire energy basket of India? It's just 17%. Rest is primary energy, oil, gas, wood, coal, direct gas. This is the primary energy in biomass. That means we are only talking about the 17% of the energy basket. The entire 83%, which is non-electricity, is getting missed out on the energy transition. That's where green hydrogen comes into picture. The moment you convert RE electricity into hydrogen, you're essentially replacing oil and gas, the primary energy, which is the key part to it. So the amount of market you're talking about is humongous. We're talking about 500 gigawatt of the electricity segment, which is only 17% energy basket. The moment you cross the boundary, because certain things you just can't electrify. The CEA report for 2047, just recently been produced, talks about 40% electrification of the total energy basket by 2050. That means 60% is left out. You just can't do it. For example, a blast furnace, you can't electrify it, impossible. You require coking coal there. Or to that matter, glass manufacturing, you require natural gas there. Making ammonia, you require natural gas. There are certain industrial processes you just cannot electrify. Now, how do you replace fossil fuel over there? Hydrogen. That's where hydrogen comes into picture. So hydrogen is much beyond battery. Rather, it attacks the energy transition in the entire energy basket. And this is true globally. When we are talking about 17% in India, US is at 26%. That's it. So 74% also in US, the energy basket is non-electricity. And hydrogen essentially addresses this problem. It can't be addressed overnight. It is a journey. Rather, if somebody recalls the energy basket itself, between 1800 to 1900 used to be the coal-driven thing. 1900 to 2000 were essentially pushed towards gas. And 2000 onwards, till 2100, it will be renewable energy and hydrogen. This is going to be a fundamental shift on the electricity, on the energy side. What we're seeing is shifting from coal, before it was biomass to coal, coal to oil and gas to renewables and hydrogen. And this is definitely going to be hydrogen by 2100. We all not be there, but people will be quoting us at that time. Yes, hydrogen did came in the entire century. We're just a start of the century. We are entire 75 years to go. So hydrogen is definitely an evolving science, very different, very huge scales and all. Lots of things are still undefined in hydrogen. But one thing is very clear, again, like renewables, this is the future. There is no other option. Unless you want to move out the energy transition side on the actually energy side, not electricity side, you require green hydrogen.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. This was really an eye-opener, and we can see from the here, from the audiences also, and from the thing that you are saying that green hydrogen is the future. And really, you have shown that how the transition pathway happened from with respect to the biomass to coal to renewables from the oil and gas, especially with the now going from renewable plus hydrogen. This is really, really eye-opening right now. So currently, we will come into the third section or the final section of this session. Let me make it a little bit quick of like 2 minutes of the discussion right now. Since right now, what we spoke with respect to the first is challenges on the grid and what are the challenges, especially on the financial market. Next, we went into the new technologies, the emerging technologies. And right now also with the Chintan Shah sir saying about the green hydrogen, the openness of the market and all. So now let's discuss the future direction with respect to the renewable energy sector in India, especially with respect to what are the future steps the government should take, also from the private players, what is the steps that's been required. My question currently first goes to the Mr. Kishore Nair sir. As both we can see country as well as the states are attracting investment in the renewable energy with respect to the manufacturing currently. And Avadas, which has been the company which has been involved in the solar PV manufacturing. Can you please share what are the challenges your company or the people are facing currently with respect to the PV manufacturing? And additionally, can you also mention that what policies or the trade agreement do you believe are necessary to strengthen the Indian position as a global hub, especially for solar panel manufacturing? Thank you.
Solar manufacturing was always a contentious subject. When we started, we started in the solar space 2010, 11, maybe starting from 11 to till about 15. The manufacturers and the developers were like India and Pakistan. We always used to fight in front of government saying that solar manufacturing should be allowed for import from China, because if we want to achieve the renewable energy capacity in the country, we need to have cheaper and reliable solar modules to be available for those projects. And the modules which were manufactured in India, they were not getting the market because they were expensive. They were not having the quality as it was coming from China, because China, the technology was emerging very fast. Every year you can see that the new technology is coming. All the European solar module manufacturing got closed down. Same happened in India as well. To protect the Indian industry, Government of India had come up with anti-dumping duty or safeguard duty to protect the solar module manufacturing in India. But the Chinese had still reduced their prices even below that. So even if you apply the duty on the Chinese modules, they were still cheaper than the Indian modules. And India was necessarily looking at China to get their basic products like the ingot or wafer or the cell also, because we were only doing an assembly line in India and there were not many manufacturers who were producing the cell. But the manufacturers as well as the developers and along with the government supported the Atmanirbhar initiative by the Government of India, and we all understood and we all realized that we need to have the manufacturing base in India, and we cannot be looking at a foreign country to supply the required modules if we want to meet the 500 gigawatt capacity which India has set target. And that is where most of the developers supported this initiative, and the first initiative by Government of India was that we all said that you at least come with a window of maybe 2 years and give the necessary policy initiatives and policy support, financial support, so that the Indian manufacturing becomes more competitive with the Chinese suppliers. And then once the capacity is already established in India, then we can look at making sure that all the Indian projects are using the Indian modules. So that is where there was a consensus that 2 years from now, all the manufacturers will be having enough of capacity to support the domestic requirement. And that is where the policy initiatives got implemented, and there was a policy ALMM policy was introduced. That means any modules which is going to be used in Indian power sector starting from last April onwards, they will be having the modules which are certified by India. That is called approved list of module manufacturers. So there was a 2-year window particularly that happened during the COVID period. And we did not ban the Chinese modules, but we said that only the approved modules can be used in India. And citing the COVID as a reason, nobody could go and inspect the module factories in China. And naturally it had a slow death, saying that we cannot use any more Chinese modules, and slowly we transitioned into the modules which are going to be manufactured only in India. So that was the genesis where we started module manufacturing, and today even we started module manufacturing, and there was some policy, PLI was introduced. That means the production linked incentive policies came, and people were given incentives for producing solar modules in India. Using that policy, lot of companies ventured into the solar modules and solar cells, and also the cell and the ingot and wafer, and also the silica. So that is why the module manufacturing picked up in India, and today we have got sufficient capacity, and most of the IPPs will be using or consuming by force, I can say, by policy only the modules which are manufactured in India. We have got 1.5 gigawatt of operational module manufacturing factory in Noida in Delhi, and we will be coming up with a factory of 6 gigawatt in Nagpur, and another 6 gigawatt is going to come up again in Noida in UP. How this, when you're asking about the policy initiatives, how we can set up these factories is basically it is the policy support that is required from Government of India or the state governments. The Government of India had come up with the PLI scheme, so that was the starting point for picking up the module manufacturing in India. You are seeing the global investor meet happening now we are in Karnataka, we are attending the global investor meet. Similarly, you can see starting from say October or maybe December to February, many states are coming up with the global investor meets basically to attract the investments. Along with that, they are also coming up with different kind of policies where they offer a lot of policy incentives to attract investments. So anybody who is going to invest into a state, even whether it is module manufacturing or battery manufacturing or green hydrogen or electrolyzer manufacturing, which is required for the green hydrogen, everyone is looking at what kind of incentives the states are giving. 2 years back, Odisha, there was a global investor meet, and Odisha was leading the states by offering lot of incentives to attract the investments into the state, and that has necessitated or forced many countries to go to Odisha, and you can see lot of investments are happening in the module manufacturing in Odisha. Whereas states like Maharashtra has come up with lot of incentives, Gujarat was already having incentives, but they are already full. Maharashtra is again a developed state, in industrialized state, whereas UP didn't have much industry, so they also came up with very attractive policies. So for meeting the requirement for manufacturing, certainly the investors will look at what kind of incentives are given by the states. That is where we look forward to Karnataka also to come up with some very strong policies. Today it is not very conducive. I'm sorry to say that other states are offering better incentives in manufacturing, but Karnataka also need to look at offering more incentives to attract the manufacturing base to the country, to the state. So this is one about what kind of policies what we are looking at. What was your second part?
I think you covered all the points, sir. Thank you, Kishore sir, for giving us the view of like the challenges on the solar manufacturing. Along with that one, you also focused on like the policies which has been required, especially conducive policy with respect to comparison of the states from Orissa to Karnataka and how much has been required. It was very, very helpful for the people who are here and thinking on the moving forward. Now moving forward, my next question is to Mr. Shashikant Mishra. Currently, as we can see that investments in renewable energy sector is increasing, the market is becoming more and more competitive and also cost effective. Can you please discuss the types of financial model or support mechanism that would benefit the state, country, industry and the citizen alike? Can you please make the short two words? Short.
I will be very, very short, but it's means the main the questions which you have asked and which I will be means waiting for answer, because it's a bread and butter for me, for my company, and for all the IPVs who are sitting over here. See, there are basically 3-4 the financial models through which we can help the CNI, the segment. The first thing is obviously on-site solar, which we talked that within the campus of the customer. Either it can be on the roof, it can be on their land, car parking, or any space which is available within their campus which we can utilize for a generation of the electricity on the same site and their utilization with the negligible loss at the same point. Second thing is your the open access market, where we develop the park within a state and supply the power from that park. It can be solar, it can be wind, it can be co-located hybrid, and we can supply and cater the requirement for the customers of that particular state through intra as well as ISTS. Third thing is, and the last thing is, which we call as a VPP, a virtual power purchase contracts, green attributes trading, and the renewable energy trading also in the exchange platform. So these are the three financial models which we can, help to all the CNI segments to cater their net zero target. And obviously, because as the main contribution from the CNI segment, the maximum contribution which we need to reach this, the target of 2030 is the contribution from the CNI segment almost near to 50-60%. So if these three options, if CNI segments start utilizing, I am sure and I'm confident that the target what we have in our vision, we can easily achieve that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for Shishir of giving an explanation of the 4 sectors or the 4 structures which has been maintained in the financial market and how the market structure, financial models has been utilized currently from the companies of like the AMP in energy transition. Now, moving forward to the final question to Mr. Chintan Shah sir. We know that Renewable Renew Energy is having the experiences of basically the installing of the operations in the other countries on the renewable energy sources. What do you think what strategies that can be employed from the other countries to the India for accelerating the deployment of RE? What is your learnings?
So I'll be very brief over here. Let us talk about 2 parts of this entire thing. One is on the manufacturing side. We had to look at China, whether we like it or not. They were able to create the entire ecosystem for the new energy manufacturing. Entire ecosystem was created there. So much so that last year, 15% of the Chinese GDP was represented from new energy manufacturing. It's a lot. It's one of the largest economy of the world. And if we are able to even emulate this concept of creating this entire ecosystem, just manufacturing modules is not enough. You require modules, cells, junction boxes, glass manufacturing, entire ecosystem. Just not in solar, in hydro, in battery, in wind turbines. At least there are calculations which says that by 2030, RE manufacturing can represent something like $600 billion of GDP to the country. That's the potential to meet the domestic demand as well as exports. That's the potential of the manufacturing side. So we have to look at manufacturing very, very seriously because it adds to the GDP of the country. A, B, secures a supply chain. Third thing is also puts you on the curve for R&D, for cutting edge technology. And obviously employment generation, something which is very, very important. And that is what we should not be missing out. a lot of experience is available from Europe, from China, from Taiwan, many places. Auto sector in India is a live example. Entire auto ecosystem gets created. If some OEM comes, 200 vendors also come. We see the ecosystem getting created. That's how Indian auto sector is doing good, because it's adding to the GDP. That's a key part to it. On the generation side, I think, as I was trying to point out, we need to have market reforms. Now, one thing that comes to my mind is, unfortunately, in renewable energy, we are operating in an energy-only market. That means you have a single tariff. Now, we need to unbundle this tariff into a capacity market and energy market. We're talking about now storage, right? Storage is a typical capacity market. So that is the way it has to get evolved to reflect the real price. Just saying that I am the cheapest power in solar at 2 rupees doesn't make any sense, because that time the opportunity cost of electricity might be zero. So the moment you have solar with BESS, you unbundle into capacity market and the energy market. Now that is what needs to be pushed now in the future, and this market frameworks are available, globally available. I think we just have to adapt to it and start pushing towards it. That's my...
Okay. Thank you very much, Chintan Shah, for this wonderful thoughts on what are the things which we need to learn from the other countries, especially from the experiences of the Renew Power. We can take a couple of questions right now from the audiences currently. So I would either go for the lady over here in the green saree. Can you please give the mic to her?
Namaste. Question for Mr. Nair or Mr. Shah. Two questions. One, does India have an edge in renewables for us to make a difference? Because I think the 2030 cutoff date for net zero is very, very ambitious, number one. Number two, the budget recently introduced a huge budget for AI expenditure, but I don't see anything coming up for renewable energy, for R&D. Because I think the R&D, while you said green hydrogen is the future, is that the only option that's going to be available? Because today with climate change affecting us in every which way we look at, I think it's a huge issue. So R&D is number one, I believe, and I also believe that opening up the market to make it available, because today the cost of power and energy is huge. The kind of bills we're all paying at consumer level, forget even at the factory level. And looking at the last mile off-grid kind of connection. I work in the social sector, so I'm a little familiar what's happening with solar energy, with a gentleman who created this 40 years ago.
Ma'am,
yes,
please, John, can you please come to the point on the question?
So these are two questions. Basically about, does India have an edge to make a difference to meet that net zero of 2030? And whether there is, or have I missed the point of the budget where there is enough budget for R&D?
Thank you, ma'am, for this question.
I think we should not walk with the date of 2030. 500 gigawatt is going to happen. It may happen in 2032. That's okay. But it's bound to happen. That's for sure. Do we have an edge? Yes, I think we do have an edge. We have all the elements to deliver that. And there's a huge... The important is that are all stakeholders alike, aligned in this? They are. The speed of every stakeholder is different. That's where the problem is. So some are laggards, some are faster. So it is bound to happen. The edge that it's up to us how we want to put that edge. If we can set up the manufacturing ecosystem parallelly to this, then the edge definitely comes in. So that is something which is important. On the budget, I think there was a massive budget on renewables this time. It just not figured out in the budget speech. Because every year they've been announcing about renewables. I think now it's a given thing. By the way, the budget for renewables is about 80,000 crores for the current year. It just mentioned, because it's there on the details of the budget. Because there are programs which are now running for renewables. Like Kusum program is running, Kusum 2 is going to come up, solar parks are coming up. So these are routine activities which are not happening. There is a R&D budget also in that. It unfortunately gets unspent every year because there are not adequate proposals available. But there is a very much overarching push for R&D, at least by the government of India. And there's a sizable budget essentially available within MNRE, with MITI, and couple of other ministries together. It's there.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
To add on to that, the 500 gigawatt capacity, the capacity at a central level is being done through the tendering process. Each of the renewable energy implementing agencies like NTPC, SECI, and they have been given a target of 50 gigawatt tenders to be done in each year. In the last year, we have already achieved that 50 gigawatt target. And going forward, these capacities are to be met because already the bidding has been completed for about 350 gigawatt, which is already completed, I mean total capacity. And in addition to that, states were not coming up with the bids earlier. Now the states are also coming up with a lot of bids, particularly in the storage space. Since storage has become very relevant, more bids are also coming up for the storage space also. So we are certainly sure that we will be achieving that 500 gigawatt capacity. Your question on the artificial intelligence, lot of research is going on the technology part, particularly on the solar module manufacturing part. A lot of new technology is coming up. The efficiencies are going up from 16% to it's almost 25%. That's where you are seeing a lot of new higher size modules are coming. We are also introducing the tracker system which can track the sun with the season as well as the movement of sun. All those things are coming up in the R&D side. And earlier we used to have about 5 acre or 6 acres per megawatt. Now it is coming down to almost half this size. So a lot of R&D is happening in the technology side, particularly in the manufacturing. In the generation side, how do you optimize the generation using the AI and the R&D, and of course the hydrogen, all those things the R&D is going on. So it is certainly a sector which is having the maximum importance, not only in India but globally. Energy transition is the subject. You go to any conference in the world, you can listen a topic on energy transition.
Thank you, Kishore sir.
Good evening. My name is Rama. I'm co-founder of Deploy Next. We are into deployment systems of solar panels, antennas, and others in space. We are also looking at the terrestrial market. I have two questions. First question, if the panelists...
Excuse me, can you just keep one question, please?
Okay. If the panelists were 30-year-old, I know we have discussed a lot of problem statements, some solvable by us, some by government. If you were 30-year-old, if each of you can brief us what your business model is going to be. Thank you.
Over to you.
Your question is that if we are 30 years from now...
Sorry, if you were 30-year-old now, if you were to start up,
Okay.
What would your business model be now?
Unfortunately, I'm 60 plus.
If you were. Thank you.
Of course, like I said, the clean energy is the most happening sector in the world today. Everybody wants to be in the clean energy sector. If you look at the Indian energy sector in the last 10 years, we said we don't want any more thermal projects. We want to be in the clean energy. A lot of investments are coming. Everybody has committed for a net zero. That means everybody want to be carbon neutral. So if I am a 30-year-old person, I would certainly look at what are the new trends coming in the clean energy sector. As a person, I will be committed to achieving the clean energy targets. So I will be looking at a lot of new initiatives which can happen. It can be in the battery manufacturing, that is a new emerging sector. It can be with a lot of 30-year-old guys moving into the IT sector. You can look at, like Madam was asking about, how can you use artificial intelligence into this sector. So look at more R&D sectors. How can you optimize the generation? How can you improve the generation? Use the AI technology in the clean energy sector. So these are the things that I will be looking at if I am a 30-year-old guy.
Yeah, my name is M.S. Reddy. I am an environmentalist. You know that Trump is moving towards the fragile players. Whatever the restrictions are previous and future, he is lifting, he is not encouraging, he is not more particular about the renewable. What is the impact of Trump policies on Indian renewable energy scenario and world renewable energy scenario? Please can you explain whether it is a positive or negative, particularly in Indian renewable scenario? Trump policies.
See, we are self-sustained in renewable energy. We are not getting any support from the US government. Neither we are affected by any policy which is introduced by Trump. So primarily I can say we are not affected by his policies. The areas where, compared to the previous government brought in a policy called IRA. where they were giving the concessions for like subsidy we are giving, they were giving the inflation reduction or interest subsidies they were offering for manufacturing. So that is something that many Indian entrepreneurs were looking at setting up industries in India, in the US. Some of the Indian manufacturers had put up the wind turbine manufacturing like Suzlon, and some of these companies had set up wind manufacturing plants in US. As far as I know, when I talked to some of my US friends, they said wind sector is going to have a major impact by Trump's policies. He is not interested in wind anymore. Offshore wind, absolutely no. Onshore wind, maybe no. Solar, he is still supporting that solar may come up. So that is all for all the investments which are happening in the US, or people who are exporting wind turbines to the US, they may get affected. But for our target of meeting 500 gigawatt capacity in India, I don't think we will be affected anyway by the Trump policies.
Okay, thank you very much for this intruding questions, and thank you Kishore sir, Chintan Shah sir and Shashi Mishra sir for the inputs which you have given to them. So we are finally concluding our session today on that one. Before we conclude, I would like to ask Chintan Shah the final concluding statement which you want to give on this session, or on the renewable energy growth which you are having.
I think we discussed many things today, and there are certain things which is beyond the control of the people sitting over here. We can just observe and comment on it. But what is possible for us as industry sitting over here is to push towards more and more reforms and more certainty on the policy and the regulatory side. Because to do business, it requires some certainty for a couple of years. If some policy changes are happening, let it happen, it's fine, it's natural. But let it be very clear in terms of a trajectory. This is, I'm going to do in 2028, 2030, 2032, fine. Industry would correct accordingly and do the business process accordingly. Instead of having impulsive decision at times on the policy front, it happens. Normally it happens. That should be avoided more and more, because now the market, the size of the market has gone up. We're talking about riding out 40 gigawatt every year. Almost an investment of $30 billion happening in this particular space. So that requires a fair amount of certainty. So let us define what this certainty is. Let us stick to it. I'm not saying that yes, ye galat hai. Whatever it is, let us write it down. This is the way the path is going to be. Industry would correct accordingly and manage things accordingly and still deliver the same amount of number. Because the whole idea is nobody wants to take undue risk or uncalculated risk. Because risks are always there. That is what my take would be.
Thank you, Chintan sir, for this wonderful thoughts on the concluding remark. Now I ask Kishore sir to please give us a concluding remark according to me.
India has committed to be a net zero by 2070. I would look forward to India achieving it much earlier, maybe by 2050 or 2060. And India as a country should be fully developed, forward and backward integrated with in a totally sustainable way to achieve our net zero commitments much earlier than the 2070 target we have set for ourselves. As an individual or as a company, all of us should be committed that whatever we do, we should be doing it in a sustainable way. We should be able to cut down any carbon emission that is coming out. We should be putting our effort to contain the carbon emission so that we keep this world for our future generations.
Wow. Very intruding thoughts, sir. Thank you very much, Kishore sir. Now, last but not the least, Shashi sir, can you please give your...
Not so many words, but just because we discuss a lot, everything, pros and cons. So yes, target is there. We have to make our country green. So again, what I would like to request, means not only, means as a panelist over here, we all audience, which I have already, said few minutes back. We together, we have to make our country green. We have to discuss, we have to fight, we will win. Means whatever target is there, 2030 or 2070, we all are together in this race, we are not far away. Thank you so much.
That's wonderful thought, sir. Thank you, Shashi sir. So to summarize today's session of like what we have been going through, it has been remarkable, almost like 2 hours of session which we had right now. So we are really, really thankful to Chintan Shah sir, who has given us a new perspective with respect to like how the markets need to be there, what are the perspectives of the markets, and what are the new way forward in the renewable energy growth, and how the market sizes will vary across the thing, and what are the learnings which they had from the other countries, and how to move forward, which was really very well explained. Thank you, Chintan Shah sir. And moving to the Kishore sir, who has also explained us really the differences of the battery storage systems along with the grid challenges which is been facing. He has explained us the differences of like what will be the pumped hydro storage differences along with the sodium hydros, and what will the emerging technologies which has been coming through. And along with that, he also shed us the light with respect to what are the basically the PV manufacturing challenges and how it has been carried out in India and what are the things to be there. Thank you for this including part, sir, as well as on that part. And now moving to the Shashi sir, who has also explained us like CII investment, especially on the market mechanisms and what are the financial models which need to be used. And along with that, he also explained us giving us the valuation with respect to the transmission, open access and the wheeling charges thing. It has been like completely we covered from the generation to transmission to distribution to the storages in the whole sector, along with that the manufacturing thing. So we can say that we are having a good sustainable growth in future, and we can see lot of investment, especially with the REs coming up, and this is the future. Thank you all. This is, I conclude my session now. Thank you, panelists.
Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause to all our dignitaries. Thank you so much for a very informative and a very knowledgeable session. Moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, I would request Mr. Praveen Ramdar, Joint Director, Industry and Commerce Department, Government of Karnataka, to please join us on dais and hand over memento to all our dignitaries. Well, we wholeheartedly like to thank all our distinguished speakers for their valuable time and for sharing such knowledgeable session with us. Thank you so much for your time. Well, I would also request all the dignitaries on dais to capture a moment together. We want all the dignitaries together to pose for a picture and capture this wonderful moment. Also, in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick reminder to everyone, we have our Union Minister, Piyush Goyal, who is right here at the main hall. We request everyone to kindly please proceed to the main hall where we have the plenary session, where we have the awards and cultural beginning. So requesting everyone to proceed right there. The hall is called the Plenary Hall, and we have the awards and cultural starting up in next 10 minutes from now. While the occasion is already graced by the Union Minister, requesting everyone to join us right there so that we can together make it even more special with your gracious presence. With that, thank you so much everyone once again. I hope you all had a great time and enjoyed the session. Requesting everyone to kindly please proceed to the main hall. With that, we conclude the day one right here at the Hall D. Thank you.